Well, hello and welcome to a very shocked version of Squared Circle Radio. We are live right after the Royal Rumble. My name's Chris Belcher. I'm your phenomenal host. That's the young buck, Andy York. And our special guest is our buddy, Jesse Myers, my coworker. And we are here breaking down the event that we just walked across the street from. Andy, how are you, man?
It's one of the first times in like a long time when it comes to the Rumble that I am genuinely shocked. Not just by like entrances and surprises, but by who won too.
For sure.
Not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
But just genuinely shocked. So this will be a lot of fun to dive into and talk about.
For those of you who are watching live, we are using a mobile rig. So if you can't hear us for some reason, please tell us so we can try to fix it. This is not our normal thing. And obviously our voices sound like trash because we're trashed. Jesse, first time on the podcast. Thanks for being with us. Man, wow. Right? Wow.
That was probably the most incredible Royal Rumble in terms of match quality, surprises, and the whole package that you got there. I mean, the men's Royal Rumble, once Roman went in, that thing kicked up 10 notches.
Yep.
And it was just beyond amazing.
Yeah. So Jesse and I sat together, and then Andy and his wife sat together. So we sat separate, but we were texting throughout the whole show and everything. And Andy, I texted you. I don't remember what number it was, but I said business is picking up. You know, I just heard Jim Ross in my head. Business is about to pick up. Yeah. And dude, like Jesse just said, it did, man. It did.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it was like Joe Hendry had just come out and got a great reception.
Yep.
And we all sat down. This was like a dominant Mysterio is going to come out here, and it's going to get a little gimmicky for a minute because the crowd just needs a minute. Nope. Roman's music hit, and it was like instantly we all stood back up again, and the place went nuts.
And then right in a row, it was Punk, it was Rollins.
Cena was in there.
Yeah. So like those musics, bang, 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 hitting right in a row. It was like Roman and Cena were trying to face off, and then Punk came out, and then Rollins came out, and it just like from then on, the place was just I don't know, man. It was glued right in. Yeah, you're exactly right. But Jey Uso winning the Royal. I did call it. I'm here for it. I did call it. And if you listen to the show regularly, I may have retracted that. That was my yes. That was my original pick, was Jey Uso. And it's like when it was Jey Uso, Logan Paul, and John Cena. In my head, it was Logan Paul is going to eliminate Jey Uso, and it's going to come down to Logan Paul and John Cena, and Cena's going to win. And then it's Jey Uso and John Cena. And then we're all like, okay, we can't go wrong with who wins this. But genuinely shocked.
Yeah, I think when you thought of the contenders, say there was a Vegas odds board, you would have probably had Jey down, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th.
I think in the odds, he was like 8 or 9. When the odds came out, I think he was 8 or 9.
And I think when we were leaving the arena, the thought that came to my head was he was the one who needed it the most. Punk doesn't need it. Cena doesn't need it. But for Jey to get solidified as truly main event Jey Uso, for him to win that Royal Rumble, we think that he's probably going to go face Gunther. That would make a lot of sense, but really just ties up that entire loop. And really you see his story arc from now to WrestleMania to him having a title match at WrestleMania.
And not even just winning the Rumble, but who he beat at the end to like solidify him as the top guy.
Yep.
As being like what WWE has claimed the greatest of all time.
Yep.
So for him to go in and beat him was just we talked about this before on the show. Jey Uso's not had that one match where he just beat the guy, like the top, guy. Yeah, he pinned Roman, but that was a tag match. He won the IC belt, but he only held it for a cup of coffee, if anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a great way for him to outlast Roman, outlast Punk, outlast Rollins, and go in there with Cena and beat Cena. I think that's a great way for him to move up. Now the important part is because we've already seen Gunther versus Jey once on free TV, which is kind of crazy. Now we have to build Jey up to that level even more. Like he's already popular, but you have to make him feel like the Gunther level main event. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see what they do.
It will definitely be interesting. Taking your comments, taking your questions live. Welcome to the show. Aaron is in the chat. My brother Bryce is in the chat. Aaron says we can't hear the young buck very well. Andy, I think there's another cord laying there. right there. See if you can switch it out real quick. And while Andy is switching that out, man, like you and I, when let's go back. We mentioned Roman, we mentioned those guys. When the big elimination happened, Jesse, when Roman and Seth gets eliminated by Punk, and then Punk gets eliminated by Logan Paul. Like it was Logan Paul, right? That eliminated Punk. Yeah. So we've completely glossed over the fact that Logan Paul is the one that eliminated Punk. So you have to think, yes, we saw Punk and Rollins get into it afterwards. You have to think that Punk might go after Logan Paul in some way. But dude, just complete, you and I both, hands on our heads, jaws on the floor, like what just happened?
I think that's the beauty of what WWE right now is under Triple H. Is
Yes.
You are seeing him test the waters with so many different feuds. So many top guys are at that level. And just by that small move of Logan Paul tossing out CM Punk,
yep,
and then Rollins going multiple curb stomps, stairs, everything, him yelling at Paul, Punk yelling at Paul. Within that 2 minutes of action, you could have potentially set up 4 main event feuds. And that happened so many times tonight, whether it was in the Women's Rumble. You had the Street Profits, which I'm sure we'll get to here soon, interrupting in the tag match. So that's just the beauty of it. That's what he is doing so well, is he is just smoothly weaving in and out different characters into different people's paths. And so when they do have a collision course, you can go back to something and harken back and say, oh, I remember when that happened. We can now go back to that point as a starting point and launch from there.
It's not just the winners, Andy. If you're looking back on the night as a whole, like Jesse just ran through, it's the other things. I don't want to say the winners aren't important, but it's the other things to pay attention to. It's like you just ran through the litany of main events in the men's. In the women's, you had Liv Morgan eliminating Alexa Bliss. That's potential. You had just all this kind of crazy stuff, and Bayley getting eliminated the way that she did, and just the Street Profits, what they could be doing, and then just the way the story in the ladder match was told, the brutality of the ladder match. Andy, you mentioned it on the way up here on the elevator. The only weapon used in that match was a ladder match. So just as far as the card overall, aside from Jey Uso, maybe we got some chalk finishes, if you will, but it was how we got there that was so entertaining.
Yeah, I think, and this might just be me personally, I think outside the women's match, the finish to these matches tonight were fantastic. Wasn't a huge fan of the women's finish for a couple reasons, which I'm sure we'll dive into that here in a little bit.
Yep.
But yeah, like you mentioned, like even in just the Cody Kevin Owens match, we also got a tease of maybe a Cody Sami Zayn match at some point.
Yes, Sami Zayn.
Like,
yep.
Because I saw on Twitter, because we couldn't hear it in the arena. I saw on Twitter, Cody said, "Sammy, you did the right thing." And so, like, and apparently when he was like on the table and everything, I'm still waiting for the moment we get Homelander Cody. We got pieces of it tonight, but I'm ready for like the whole thing to happen. Yeah, you're right though. Like everything we got, even with like a guy like Penta in the Royal Rumble. I know he kind of both hit the floor early on, and
maybe
maybe blinked what happened, so I didn't see anything. But like there were moments when he was in the ring,
kayfabe,
and I'm like, I want to see Penta versus this guy really bad. Like Penta versus Jacob Fatu, yes, please. Penta versus Rey Mysterio 1-on-1, I think would be great. So yeah, it's the little things that you get in the Rumble that I love so much.
So many different guys had moments. Braun Breaker.
Yeah.
Braun Breaker looked like oh my gosh.
The perfect use of a celebrity influencer sort of entrance.
Yeah.
Even when Tozawa came in, me and Chris looked at him like, well, this is a pretty much of a waste of an entrance. And then he gets taken out. All right, you're going in. Speed does his thing. And that spear was probably up there with the Kevin Owens bump, whether the Alabama slam or the suplex off the top rope. But that bump he took for influencer to be like, yeah, I'll go out there and take that. But like Braun shined. You said Jacob shined. Like that's the I keep going back to is like you go back to past Rumbles, and sure, people have glimpses here and there, but you could legitimately probably point out a dozen different people in just the men's Rumble, let alone what happened in the women's Rumble.
Yep.
Well, I think that's something that Triple H has done really well with the Rumble specifically, because his first one, he helped make Gunther into what he is now by coming in at 1 and running the table and finishing second in that Rumble, and just with Cody in the Rumbles in the past, he's done a great job of building multiple people up. Jacob Fatu tonight was an absolute monster in there. And then like guys like Roman Reigns doesn't need it, but you just get reminded, yeah, this dude is him. Like he's the number one guy in WWE right now for a reason.
And he looks so good, honestly. Like he hasn't been in a Royal Rumble in 5 years, and obviously he was going to get a big spot. Assumed he would be in the Final Four. He was not. I mean, shocking when you sit here and think that he wasn't in the Final Four. But at the same time, the stories were so good. I mean, you have the potential of now Roman and Punk down the road, like my brother Bryce commented. I'll throw it up here on the screen. Something's going to happen between Roman and Punk's going to ask for his favor from the wise man. Very possible. Here's what I think. I told this to Jesse. Andy, I'm going to pose it to you. I think from what happened tonight, we finally get Roman Rollins at WrestleMania. I think that is very, very possible now.
Yeah, you know what you've been talking about? You've been talking about this triple threat between
I know. Yep.
Punk, Drew, Seth.
Yep.
Make it a fatal four-way.
There you go.
Roman, Punk, Drew, Rollins, just why for nothing.
Yep.
How do you, no stipulation, just to see who's the guy.
Yep.
Just to see who's the top of the top.
But then, Jesse, I say that, but then I looked at you when Drew was coming out because Roman was the only one standing in the ring. I'm like, we're building to WrestleMania right now. Yeah. So you could go one-on-one with these guys. You could go triple threat, fatal four-way. It's just there were no legends in the men's rumble tonight. We'll talk about the surprises here in a second, but there were no legends. And then we're sitting here talking about possible headlining WrestleMania matches without legends of just a handful of guys.
The final 7, I think 7 or 8 people, you could look at each one saying, I could see that guy main eventing a WrestleMania. And that definitely hasn't been there before. Yeah. And then we keep getting to WrestleMania because we're on the road to WrestleMania. Right? Yep. The Royal Rumble starts that journey.
Yep.
I'm interested now to see what happens in the Elimination Chamber.
Yes.
Because we assume that Jay and Gunther are going to probably meet up. And then that Elimination Chamber match is for Cody.
Yep.
You can just handpick 5 all-stars, whether they were in the Rumble or not. Mm-hmm. And now you have just Cody intertwined with each and every single one of them.
Yep.
And so however they want to get there and however we see the next couple of months unfolding, it just has me excited.
Yeah, for sure. Aaron Grisham, always a fan favorite in the chat. Breaking news, John Cena has officially entered the Elimination Chamber per sources. Then his follow-up comment is, me, I'm sources. Well, Aaron, I hate to tell you, buddy, but you're breaking news because I'm sure that John Cena is going to be in the Elimination Chamber along with 5 other, like we named it. Look, Cena, Rollins, McIntyre, Punk, Roman, Orton, Sami Zayn. If you put Kevin Owens back in there, LA Knight, you can throw him in there. So many people. Speaking of, can everybody hear the Young Buck okay? Or did we fix that problem? If we didn't, we'll adjust. But let's keep going. Let's talk about the 2 surprises in the Men's Royal Rumble. Joe Hendry, who we did not spoil on social media, ladies and gentlemen. We seemingly found out at WrestleCon earlier today, Andy, because you were in line to meet him, and they said, "Oh, we're cutting we have to cut the line off." The Young Buck is quite back. Okay, is the Quiet Buck? Okay, no, not quite back. Okay, we'll figure this out. Are you on? No, you're not even on. Look at you.
I asked
hey, is that better?
You said yes.
Now you're on. Here we go. Now, Andy doesn't even turn the microphone
2025.
Come on.
Listen, I'm in my Roman era where I don't need a mic to cut a promo. I'm just going to talk to the camera quietly.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, we're back now. Okay, so surprises. Joe Hendry, you were in line to meet him at WrestleCon.
Yeah.
They cut the line off, and then the Loud Buck. Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate you. They cut the line off, and then people started trickling in line, and we're standing there watching this whole thing happen. And I told you, I was like, Andy, just go get in line.
Yeah.
The worst they can tell you is that he's done.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But he was advertised till 3:00. We had no idea. And then the guy there says 11:30.
Yeah.
He's done at 11:30. They're cutting it off no matter what. And they did they verbalize Jericho Cruz? Did somebody say that?
So the guy that was like the one in charge of saying, they're done at 11:30. Just so you know, if you get in line, you may not meet him.
Right.
People were like, "Why is he leaving at 11:30?" He said he's supposed to be at the Jericho Cruise, and he missed his port yesterday, so he can stay with us. So he's catching the next one today. So,
okay. So you get in line anyway, and it's like, okay.
I was like the last one to meet him. I think
you were second to last to meet him, and they cut him off, and we all were like, no,
He's in the Rumble.
that's BS. He's in the Royal Rumble. He's got a rehearsal to get to.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, he pops up at 15 and that 14, 15.
It's 15. It was right
15,
before Roman.
right before
was
Roman.
down, yep.
Yep. And that place just went nuts, man. It was so cool.
I think you're just in a day and a time where everyone sort of is in on the Henry Express because of his social media. Like if you're over on social, when you go to these big events, especially like a Royal Rumble, Summers, like that costs a lot of money to go to these events. So the people who are there are hardcore fans. And so when that music hit, I mean, that it was like Joe Henry's been on television, on WWE television for 5 years, and everyone was clapping along and getting along with it. So that's a great showing for a TNA champion to be able to immediately make an impact. No pun intended. In the Royal Rumble.
I love that.
And
I love
even
that.
like when he was in the ring with Roman, like there was a buzz in the air. The fact that we were getting Joe Hendry and Cena wasn't in the ring yet, but Joe Hendry and Roman were in the ring together face to face.
Yeah.
It kind of just like reminded me or showed me, because his run in NXT kind of showed this too. Just like Jordan Grace, as soon as his TNA contract is done, WWE is going to be knocking at that door.
Oh, for sure.
And giving him a buttload of money to come on over.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just crazy. And we speculated, Andy, on the show last week and the week before about potential TNA people coming in. You could have seen the Hardys come in. You could have seen Moose come in. You could have seen JBL. You could have seen Ziggler come in. We could have seen Matt Cardona. We've freaking
every year.
We freaking beat that drum to death.
AJ Lee too.
Yeah,
beat that drum.
We have said those names. We didn't get any other TNA guys, but we got the TNA legend, the return of AJ Styles with the original theme music. Was really the only surprise outside of Joe Hendry that we got in the men's rumble, and it was awesome.
We got the proper
phenomenal,
AJ
dare I
Styles.
say?
Yeah, we got the proper AJ Styles Royal Rumble pop where you could actually see his entrance apparently on TV because Kevin Dunn didn't cut away to go to Roman. No, the place went crazy when his music hit, and he was one of those guys that we were like, "There's a really good chance he's going to be here tonight." But it's just, it's just the idea of, well, will he actually be here or not? And that's the whole fun of the Rumble. And he, it was like back to old AJ when he was in the ring. He got massive AJ Styles chants. People were going crazy for him. So I'm excited to see he's now another piece to add to the equation of the WrestleMania card in Vegas that is looking to be just as stacked as it was last year.
Yeah, for sure. And Logan Paul eliminating him, like that match is money between those two guys.
Logan Paul with anyone at this point.
Yeah.
I mean,
I hate it, but yeah.
Yeah.
I was, other than Dominic, Logan Paul was probably the most over heel.
Yeah.
In terms of the hatred that was pouring out.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe Nia too. Nia got it. Well,
yeah, those
part
two.
of that
That's
because
true.
my wife was sitting right next to me, and I thought I despised Nia not as much as Katie
That's
does.
hilarious.
But yeah, Dom and Logan, and having them so close together, I think was smart to have them kind of be the legend Dom, legend Logan Paul. And I think it was a good like mix to have them in there.
Yeah, it was very good.
It was a great random draw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really cool. It was literally a who's who in the Rumble. Like I looked at Jesse after number 30 hit, and just the star power in the ring at one time was just insane. All right, before we wrap up the men's Rumble, again, we appreciate you guys watching us live. Drop your comments, drop your questions. We will take them. If you're not following us on social media, what are you doing? And most importantly, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do that. Helps us a ton. Doesn't cost you a thing. Hit that subscribe button. Before we move on, we've speculated all of these WrestleMania matches of the guys that are there. Obviously, we think Jay's going to go after Gunther. If you have to predict right now, I know I'm putting you on the spot. Jesse's got a minute to think about it. If you have to build your WrestleMania card based on what we saw tonight, because it is the road to WrestleMania, what are you doing?
So obviously, Jay Gunther,
yes,
I think is the main one.
Yep.
Logan Paul, AJ Styles, I think has a lot of intrigue to it.
Yep.
Even we didn't see it tonight, but I think them being 1 and 2 is setting up something in the future. I could see a Penta versus Dom at WrestleMania taking place.
Okay.
And then my other match that potentially could main event one of the nights would be the Fatal 4-Way. Roman, Punk, McIntyre, just put them all together in the ring and just let them do what they do best.
Okay. Jess?
it's so tough because there's so many different ways that they could go.
Mhm.
And it complete agreement, Jay and Gunther.
Yep.
All the sense in the world. Roman, Seth, Punk. Between those three,
Mhm.
do they do a triple threat, or is it one off, and then do one of those other guys get a star? Is The Rock still in the picture? Because then you could easily look and see a situation where, hey, maybe Punk and Rock can rekindle something. Because I think Rollins and Reigns, after what happened tonight, is really going to be building towards something.
Yes, agreed.
And so from there, there's so many different ways. Like it's so hard.
Yep.
Even though I had a minute to think, it's like you're going through all the options and all the variables, and it doesn't really matter what you have great ingredients. You're going to make a great meal.
Yep.
No matter what you do.
Absolutely.
So that's the fun part. We now don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
There's so much different optionality. There's people who could still come back. There's so many different ways that they could go. If we're assuming Cody, who's Cody face?
Does Cody face Randy? Does Cody face Kevin Owens?
He
Does
can
Cody
face
face?
Cena.
Does Cody face Cena?
Yeah.
Does Cody face The Rock?
Does
Well,
Cody
I
face
mean-
Reigns? Does Cody face Rollins?
There was one
Punk.
really interesting omission, like from the Rumble tonight. There was no Solo Sikoa at all.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, I mean, in a world far, far away, there's a possibility, and I may just be a homer, and I'm fine with that. You could do like a Cody Rhodes versus Jacob Fatu.
Yeah, you're a homer for that one.
I am, but if you want to like continue to build this Rock story, I think there is an avenue where that could be a possibility, at least
For sure.
in the future. At
I
least
think we'll go Gunther, Jey Uso. I think we're going to go Rock, Cody. I think I'm not leaving your boy Jacob Fatu out. I think we get Solo versus Jacob at WrestleMania. I think you keep Solo off a little bit longer, and then you go Solo versus Jacob. I hesitate as much as I want to see it. I hesitate to say Roman versus Drew because of the way that everything happened with Seth. I don't know how to get Seth in there without getting Punk in there, because I don't want to do Punk and Drew one more time. I think if I do Roman, Drew, and it's Seth and Punk, Hell in a Cell, and that's probably the way that I'm going to go with it. But again, so many possibilities. So many possibilities. All right, let's move on. Before we do, we appreciate you guys being tuned in. Again, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please make sure that you do that. Please make sure that you drop your comments, your questions. We're taking them live. Make sure that you do that. All right, let's move to the Women's Royal Rumble. Charlotte Flair, the overwhelming betting favorite, returning at number 27 and winning the whole thing. Last eliminating Roxanne Perez. I'm going to go to you first because Jesse and I were sitting together and I haven't got your reaction to this. Charlotte winning, we sort of assumed. What are your thoughts on how it happened?
so. I don't mind Roxanne being like final two. I think that's a great showing for her, and I also think that that's just her. I think that's just Triple H letting us know when she comes up to the main roster, she's going to be main event level right in there with them.
She came in at 3.
Yeah,
And lasted
Lasted
all the
the
way.
distance. Yeah,
Almost, I think, over an hour.
I think so.
Yeah.
My only issue, and it's not because I don't like her, but my only issue was that whole jumbled up mess where Nia Jax eliminated like 13 people at one time.
Yep.
Because that was just, it didn't fit. It just seemed like it happened just to eliminate people. And that's something I know, like we noticed tonight a lot, is the Women's Rumble. One of the things I've like over the years, they leave like 13 to 15 people in there at one time.
Yep.
And it's like, we need to, somebody has to come in and start cleaning house. But that was the only nitpick I had, was that. And then Nikki Bella coming in at 30. I think you could have put Alexa at 30. And she would have got a much better reaction. I think you could have swapped Nikki and Alexa.
Yep.
And it would have been fine. It probably would have been even better.
I completely agree with that. That's a good thought.
But I don't mind Charlotte winning. I think it makes sense.
Yep.
I think her going after Tiffany Stratton, who's the blondest of them all in the WWE. I like the idea of that. And it leaves Rhea Ripley wide open for, a potential. Do we run Liv Morgan back? Hopefully not. Do we run with Bianca Belair? Do we run with, Jade Cargill? We saw Trish Stratus there tonight. Do we do something with her? So there's a lot of options in both the men's and women's coming from the Rumble.
What are your thoughts on execution of the women's and just how it all kind of played out?
I thought they really got off to a hot start. I mean, that being the opening match, but the people EO, Liv opening it up. You got Roxanne in there early, and then it really felt like the star power sort of accumulated quickly.
Yep.
So you had people able to do each of their things. In terms of Charlotte winning, she's the favorite. I mean, really, when you look at the women's revolution and the entirety of women's wrestling, she is one of the original 4 horsewomen, and she has meant so much to really growing that product. So after coming off, 14, 15 months gone, it just felt like it was the right choice. There was no other big surprise. It was announced ahead of time. You could see her going after Tiffany. You could see her going after Rhea if she wanted to.
Yep.
Either one of those is main event money WrestleMania. So I thought it was a good match. I thought the ending was a little bit rushed, but you know, it is what it is. The match itself was really good. I mean, I don't really have many gripes with it.
Got to see Julia, NXT champion. We're going to see Jada Parker. Again,
Vasquez.
Yes. Whatever her name is. We'll call her Stephanie. Speaking of Stephanie McMahon opening the show. But again, you guys mentioned the return of Alexa Bliss. Absolutely incredible. Huge pop. You guys will see my reaction to that on our vlog that I'm going to post later this week. Nikki Bella coming in at 30. Again, you hit the nail on the head, man. Just swap those two, and it feels just totally different. No AJ Lee. We've been, griping for it for years. Friend of the show, Josh Pate, even texted me during the show and said, "What? No AJ Lee? I can't believe this." Sorry if I got your hopes up, Josh. But anyway, it was really, really good. Of course, you got Jordan Grace, which we all thought we were going to get, even though she said we weren't going to. Same thing happened with Alexa. But yeah, I thought it stacked up really well. I'm with you. I feel like the ending was just a little rushed. And speaking of people that, Jesse, that just really shined tonight in big spots, Chelsea Green the place was so behind her tonight.
She's over like Rover. Like
she is.
Personality in the women's division at times, the wrestling's gotten so much better, but the person, she has the biggest personality. She can squeeze into where all the black women are in the middle of the ring looking at each other like, yeah, we're here, and Chelsea's like, well, I'm here too. Just an amazing little spot but she's the only one who could really pull that off because she has that sort of gravitas to her as a heel right now. So I thought she did a remarkable job. Io, I think that there's something there that will just catapult her so high in terms of her wrestling ability. So overall, good showing.
Yep.
But what was your favorite part of the Women's Rumble match?
Honestly, I mean, the return of Alexa Bliss, I thought was the best part of the women's match. It just you could tell looking at her face how appreciative she was for the reaction that she got. There's so many people that wanted her to go away so long ago. It's like, she's just a blonde. She doesn't need to be champion. She's not very good in the ring. She's been gone for 2 years, and the pop that she got, I mean, it was great. I wonder what they're going to do with her. You saw a lot of hints of White 6 tonight with her gear and with coming out with Lily again. I thought that was really, really good. I'm anxious to see what they do. Again, I mentioned a minute ago, her and Liv Morgan, that's a great feud they could easily go to. But yeah, that was my favorite part. I thought it was super good. Speaking of good showings, Liv Morgan, I told Jesse, she is going to be a babyface. The positive reaction for her all night long until she eliminated Alexa, and then she eliminated somebody else right after that. That the people really just booed her for it. I don't remember who it was. But anyway, for somebody who's been in the spotlight all year long last year is not slowing down this year.
No, and I think, the best thing I think for her and for Rhea is just to move on from their respective feuds and do something different. I think she's probably going to get her and Raquel are going to win the tag titles.
I hope so.
Before WrestleMania,
I think
probably at Elimination Chamber.
I think they should.
Or on a random episode of either Raw or SmackDown. But yeah, I mean, she had a fantastic showing. Chelsea Green was the most fun tonight by far.
So good.
And
she got a huge pop too.
She did multiple times. I forget who she eliminate. B-Fab? Was it B-Fab?
I don't remember.
There was something. That was her first elimination.
Yeah, and the place just went nuts every time she eliminated somebody.
It was she again. people would have eaten it up if she would have won the Rumble. Like, I know that she probably wasn't going to,
Yeah.
but like, you talk about people being behind it, like that would have been awesome.
If it would have came down to Charlotte versus Chelsea Green, that would have been a lot of fun. But I think it was smart not to, because then people
booed
turn on
Charlotte.
Charlotte pretty quickly. So you got to be careful about that. And then we talked about her a lot, but Roxanne Perez. There were moments when I forgot she was in the Rumble, and then all of a sudden she would do something. I'm like, Roxanne is still in this thing?
Too.
Like, what are we doing? And then when it came down to the final two, part of like the chaotic side of me was like, let Roxanne win it. Like, let her just come in and win it. Don't know what we do. She can go after. Right. I mean, she can go after Julia in the NXT Women's Championship. We've seen that before. From the Rumble winner. But yeah, I think Alexa, Liv, Chelsea, and Roxanne were stars tonight.
Yeah, they really were. All right, Jess. We talked about it for the men. We didn't really see any interaction pertaining to Rhea Ripley. We're assuming that Charlotte is going to go after Tiffany Stratton. She may go after Rhea. Who knows? But if you're booking the other side now, I would assume the Elimination Chamber is for a shot at Rhea Ripley. What does that chamber look like?
That's a great question. First off, I need to know what's going to happen with this Bianca Naomi sort of.
Let go to Jade real quick. I'm glad they left her out of the Rumble because I have said for a long time, like, in order for her return to be more meaningful, same thing with Randy Orton, there needs to be a personal interaction between the person who they were tied at the hip with, so to speak, Randy being Kevin Owens and Jade being Bianca Belair. So
yeah, so we need clarification on where exactly that's going. What happened to Jade? Did Bianca play a role in it? Because personally, if I'm looking at the whole landscape, a Bianca Rhea match to me is where I would try to be going to.
Yeah,
they've really done a good job of keeping those two far away from each other, yet they're still sort of ascending at the same time.
Yep.
So depending on what they want to do there, I could easily see her being in there. She's probably my favorite. And then I think you really start looking at how much of the younger talent do they want to get in there. Like, I thought all the NXT girls really shined tonight. Do they want to try to get one of them in there, or are you looking more towards some other people on the roster? So let's go round robin here. So I'll put Bianca in there. Who would be your option to go in there?
Dark horse, honestly, we just mentioned her. Raquel Rodriguez could be really interesting against Rhea Ripley. I don't know if that's a WrestleMania match for a women's world championship, but like Raquel versus Rhea, I think has potential. I mean, because I keep going back to the way that Shawn Michaels and Diesel, that dynamic in 1994, and in 93, Shawn was really good. And in 94, Shawn was really good, but they built up Diesel at the same time and made him a killer. You could do the exact same thing with Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez now and make Raquel that killer to go up against Rhea Ripley. Look, I mean, Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon, greatest ladder match of all time, WrestleMania 10. But coming out of that, who's the feud? Diesel and Razor. Diesel's Intercontinental Champion to SummerSlam, and that's a SummerSlam match. So we just came out of Rhea versus Liv. Well, how do you turn that around? Rhea versus Raquel. So Dark Horse, I think that's a cool pick.
Yeah. I am fully on board with Rhea versus Bianca just because why has that not happened yet?
Yes, my 2 cents I am as well. But
if I'm to pick somebody else, and I'm surprised you didn't pick her, you want to make a star instantly and make a name, not necessarily that she has to win, but Rhea Ripley versus Jordan Grace is
let's
money.
Go.
I mean, absolutely money. Just two completely opposite yet very similar in the same way. Personalities, they're very opposite, but the way they wrestle. I mean, Jordan hit the ring and immediately went after Piper and like showed her strength on display.
Yep.
And the place went nuts.
Yep.
And so you put her in there with a Rhea Ripley, I think they can tear the house down at WrestleMania.
I agree. I don't know that you want to split the audience, but that would be just an absolute, incredible match between those two. Jordan Grace, obviously surprising the Rumble tonight. Really good showing. I mean, she's got main roster written all over. I think she's got to skip NXT and go straight to the main roster.
I mean, as soon as she came out, looked like $1 million, just absolutely jacked.
Yep.
And came down to the ring, immediately made an impact, and you can look at it and be like, oh, that's a WWE. Same thing that you thought when you saw Jade Cargill debut.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's a WWE prototype. So for sure, I could see her being in the picture. I mean, Nia Jax, I know they just did the thing with Rhea at Saturday night's main event, but she had a very good showing once again. She's
Mhm.
lingering around. I don't know if they want to try to wrap back and ever finish the Tiffany story with that or where exactly that goes, but that's another name. So I think you're going to have a number of people in that elimination chamber.
Low key, you know, for several years we normally see multi women tag matches at WrestleMania. I mean, Nia Jax and Candice LeRae, you could put them in a tag match. You could have them win the tag belts instead of Liv and Raquel. They've been sniffing around with it as well. Those two work together tonight to get some eliminations. So could easily go that direction. All right, let's move on to the Undisputed Championship ladder match. Before we do, make sure, again, if you're watching live, subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Make sure that you like the video. Make sure you drop your comments and questions. Aaron Grisham has slowed down in the chat. Everybody else has slowed down in the chat a little bit. So get those comments up, get those questions. We'll be happy to address those on the show live. All right, let's move. Cody Rhodes in a vicious, brutal ladder match, Andy, defeating Kevin Owens, retaining his championship. Sami Zayn coming down and stirring some things up a little bit. Didn't know how that was going to go. Was kind of scared for a minute.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts?
I thought this was done perfectly. They didn't go right to full speed right away. Like, this was a slow build throughout the match, even in terms of like brutality. Obviously, Cody took that spot earlier when he went like through the pieces that hold the ladder together.
Yep.
And a couple, like, they fought through the crowd, and things like that. But they did a really good job of pacing this match between the two of them, to the point where, one of my problems in the past with WWE blood feuds is they tried to, and I know this is going to be weird to say, they try to make blood feuds into a wrestling match. And like, sometimes you don't need a wrestling match. Sometimes you just need a fight.
Yep.
Like an absolute fight. And that's what we got tonight. Some nasty Kevin Owens bumps. Cody took some nasty bumps too. I just respect to both those guys. You can tell they love what they do.
Yep.
And they love ladder matches and moments like that. So I was a massive fan of this. Probably my favorite match of the night. The men's rumble was really good, but like from a wrestling standpoint, everything else, my favorite match of the night. So it was really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that finish, and it's just such a small thing, but I love an old callback, like Cody Rhodes under Hardcore Holly, and just, hey, we're gonna win this match with an Alabama slam.
Yep.
That bump that Owens took was so nasty. Like,
Yep.
It looked like his neck was like in between the ladder as it went down.
Yep.
So I thought just the way that they got to that point, teasing the package pile driver, which has been a whole focal point of that story, just another old harken back that just like nice little like chef's kiss to add on to the top of that feud, which I now assume is probably done. And so where does Kevin go from here? Who knows? But Cody stands tall again. It's a theme that we're running into. John Cena was on the show tonight. We didn't see Super Cena. We saw Super Cody.
Yes, we did.
Prevail once again, and in a great match.
Yeah, I mean, when Cody noticed the cut on Kevin Owens and he just went and just pounded him on that announce table, we saw that, the Homelander, like you're talking about, we saw that vicious side of Cody. There were even people behind us that were like, goodness, Cody's taking it to another level kind of thing. So it definitely got a reaction. One of the big things that Jared, who is not on the show tonight, he was texting me through the show, and that I noticed, Jesse, that I'll bring to you, is a lot of cheers for Kevin Owens tonight. And I don't think, I'll go ahead and say this, I don't think that was because people didn't want Cody to win. I just think people love Kevin Owens so much, no matter what he does. I think people just respect the heck out of Kevin Owens for just his hard work and sticking around. He was the guy that everybody said that wasn't going to make it in WWE and doesn't have the body type and blah, blah, whatever. And Kevin Owens is in a huge spot again at the Royal, and a huge title match at the Royal Rumble. So I think people just genuinely respect Kevin.
Of course. I mean, he's been in front of our eyes for the last decade now.
Yeah.
Whether it was NXT or the main roster, I think probably a portion of the fans want to see him get a Rumble title win. He's been in so many of them. He's now 0 for 5, 0 for 6, something along those lines. And I think it's just sort of the dichotomy, because the thing that's really nice about this entire feud is you can see where Kevin came from the entire time.
Yeah.
Kevin
was right.
When Cody went to go help Roman, Kevin looked at that as a betrayal. So the best thing for a heel is to have some semblance of the truth behind it.
Yep.
But this is actually one where people were just like, no, Cody, like you kind of screwed over Kevin
Yep.
by doing this. Like this, Roman's been, causing Kevin hell
Yeah.
for 2 years.
Absolutely.
So I think that probably played a small role in it. And then you look at everything that Kevin's been going through, trying to get over the Wing Dingle belt and stuff like that. And just interaction with Sammy. I think people want to see a Kevin Sammy. Like I kind of wanted to see that title match happen. And that would have been like, oh, that would have been a really good way to get there. Sammy helps. All of a sudden, now Sammy's thrown into it. So I think people saw the end point. They appreciated how they got there. It was a great match. I mean, Kevin Owens doesn't have bad matches either.
Right.
So it's one of those people,
Absolutely.
okay, you can throw him in the microwave and all of a sudden 30 seconds later this guy's hot again and doesn't matter what he goes through.
Yeah.
He was just right back in that main event picture.
He's one of those guys that, if he's not over, just put a microphone in his hand or just ring the bell and
Be real quick.
He'll get over real quick. I think people are ready for another Kevin Owens title run.
Yeah.
And
I think for a long time they've been ready for
to
it.
the point where I would not mind, if he moved over to like a Raw and went after the World Heavyweight title. If Jey Uso versus Kevin Owens kind of writes itself,
Man,
all over.
Think
again.
about that.
But what I love tonight is and I've been preaching this for a long time. We still left the door open for Sammy versus Kevin at WrestleMania, even though it's not for a title, which I would have loved for it to have been. Those two guys to get the proper moment, put a stipulation on it, let them just go out there and do what they do best. I think is a really special way for them to go forward heading into WrestleMania. So that's one of the biggest things I took away from this whole the whole match itself was it seems like that's where we're heading is Kevin versus Sammy at WrestleMania with Kevin having the gripe now. Why did you not help me?
Yeah.
Like you were there to help me. You helped me against Shane. Like you helped me, a couple other times. Why were you not there to help me against Cody? So I like that aspect.
Got a question in the YouTube chat here from the To Me troll. He's back, ladies and gentlemen. Is Sammy going full heel? I don't know. I'll go first on that. I don't know because if you're going to keep Kevin Owens as a heel, I wouldn't think that Sammy would go full heel. But if you're going to align them, do you run back Kevin and Sammy? You can't really do it against the Usos now, I guess, because Jay won the Rumble. What do you think, Jess? Is he a full heel? How do you do that?
I think we're in for a slow burn. I think we are moving towards Sammy Tweener area.
Yep.
The last couple of Raws and SmackDowns been accidental kicks to different people and everything. He was out there tonight. You could tell that he maybe wanted to do something, but he wasn't really concise or had the conviction to want to do it. So now you start looking at it. It's like, is Sammy? I'll say he's probably a good candidate for the Elimination Chamber, which is what the where he's at generally.
Yep.
But if he loses there again, all of a sudden now it's like, sorry, Sam, you've been losing.
Yep.
You lost to Drew. You didn't win the Rumble. You lost the Chamber. So do you see him like maybe snap potentially on Kevin Owens, or do you think, hey, maybe him and Kevin get together again, run another little small tag team heel run, but this time Sammy really turns on Kevin, and you maybe flip the script that way, going all the way back to NXT days where Sammy wins the title, Kevin puts him down, then Kevin goes over. Maybe you sort of call back almost a decade or so later to something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting that the YouTube comment, because Andy, we haven't even mentioned the Karrion Kross factor in all this because of how Karrion Kross has been changing people, and he's been dipping in and out there with Sammy on Raw.
Yeah, and I think something else that I noticed in the Rumble as well, which I'm sure you guys did too, is there was that moment when Sammy looked at Roman and thought, like, what do I do here? And he picked him up and helped him up. So that's another thing in the Kevin Owens, that's another feather in the Kevin Owens hat where he can be like, you didn't help me at the Rumble, but you helped Roman get up. Like you were in Roman's corner.
And guess what? Jay was the one that eliminated you.
Yeah,
exactly.
From an incidental kick.
Exactly.
But needless to say, that's another just a small little thing that he got woven in there.
So I think we're at the point where I don't see Sammy turning fully heel just yet. I could see it post WrestleMania at some point, but I don't see him turning fully heel just yet. But I do think he's going to be in that. He's not going to be the same underground dog, underdog that he was in the past. He's going to be this vicious version, bring back El Generico version of him, and like a good old. What I want at WrestleMania is a good old fashioned El Generico versus Kevin Steen, and just let them go out there and do what they do best. And I think he can play into that role really, really well. With this idea of do I align myself with Kevin Owens, or do I stay on this path that has brought me to this point in my career?
The canvas is blank for telling these stories right now, and there's so many ways that you can go with it. Just so many options. People talk about, Sam Roberts, I think, talks about this all the time on his podcast, where like you drop these little nuggets that you can always revisit, and it just makes everything so unpredictable. The Rumbles were unpredictable tonight. The ladder match, even to an extent, was very unpredictable. You were very torn on this show about if Kevin Owens was going to win the championship or not. And I know a lot of people were too, because it's a great opportunity for Cody to lose the belt, not get pinned. And then that would raise the questions of where in the world does Cody Rhodes go from here? You know what I mean? So just, man, it's wide open. Again, we appreciate you guys being tuned in live with us on our YouTube channel. Subscribe if you haven't done that already. One more match on the Rumble card, and then we will get out of here. Let's quickly talk about the 2 out of 3 falls match. DIY victorious over the Motor City Machine Guns, retaining their tag team championship with the help of the Street Profits, who attacked the Motor City Machine Guns to help to cost them the match. And then we're all thinking, oh, we finally get full on heel Street Profits. Let's go. And then they jump DIY after the match,
I think it was just sort of a thing to where the Street Profits had enough. There's no more solo cups being thrown around. They came out all black. Clearly, this was an attitude shift for them to where, hey, we've been lost in the shuffle and everything, I think is fair to say, in the tag picture. And that's not going to happen anymore. So, yeah, we're going to cost your beloved babyfaces who sort of jumped the line in it. But it doesn't matter who you are. We're going to take our time back now.
Yep.
So I think that was just a very clear message. A good way to get the heels over one more time.
Yep.
But obviously it sets up a lot of different ways for them to go. But we talk about DIY Motor City Machine Guns. The Street Profits came out of that.
Yeah.
Out of the
the
best out of the 3.
They definitely did.
Just unpredictable.
Yep.
I would not have
would not have thought of that.
That is not how I thought that one was going to go.
No, and as soon as it happened, instantly, because we talked about how they like to do like tag multi-women matches or something like that at WrestleMania. They like to do that with the tag titles too.
Yep.
And instantly I thought of a fatal 4-way of DIY, Motor City Machine Gun, Street Profits, Pretty Deadly.
Yep.
You put those 4 teams together at WrestleMania and they can go out. I think you can do Street Profits versus DIY in the meantime, and Motor City Machine Guns gets involved in that one. Maybe Pretty Deadly comes out and gets involved with that one, and we can kind of build to that. But I'll say this, the match was good. The biggest pop of the night is when the Street Profits held those titles up, though. The biggest pop of that entire match was when the Street Profits held the title up. I know my section went crazy for it, and I think people are ready for it because we forget how good they actually are. And they were saddled with Bobby Lashley for a while, and nothing really came of it. And so I'm excited to see what they're able to do now, and kind of where they are going, because it seems like they have big plans for them heading into WrestleMania.
Montez Ford looked,
oh my gosh,
like $1 million.
If we didn't think he could look any better, he did tonight. Oh my gosh.
So just him, like, that is a main event star down the line too. That's just sort of waiting. Nothing, Dawkins too, but like just Montez Ford, just like you can just see, oh yeah, he has that.
He has it
in him.
I am more anxious for a tweener or full on heel Montez Ford than I am Angelo Dawkins, because like that dude, he looked like $1 million, but when he gets that look in his eyes, he gets that crazed look in his eyes. That's a dude you don't want to mess
with.
And
he can cut a promo.
Yes,
like,
he can
cut a promo.
He can.
So yeah, I think I can see him being in a Jey Uso spot, because we talked about in the past a couple years ago. Everybody was like, Montez Ford is going to be an IC champion by now and all this. I could see him in a Jey Uso spot within the next 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah, it could be very, very interesting.
I got one. Please, if we keep doing 2 out of 3 falls, and the first fall gets finished on something that would never finish another wrestling match.
Yes, that's true.
Can we just, like, the first fall just happened within 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Yep.
DIY would have just won a tag title match in 5 minutes if it wasn't a 2 out of 3 falls.
Yep.
So just, I beg of you, if you wanted 2 out of 3 falls, make me believe.
Yeah.
Make them cheat on the first one. Get
Yeah.
a roll up or something, but
Yep.
don't just have a running knee, which we've seen probably 15 other times. Or like it was just infuriating to me on just a small level. Where it's just like, if you're going to do the 2 out of 3 falls,
Yep.
don't let the first
Yep.
fall happen like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I did pop like crazy when they pulled out the shatter machine.
Oh yeah, it was great. It was awesome.
That was a good callback.
Yeah, like the first fall, Ciampa pulled the knee pad down. We had the fake tag, and then so you count it as distracting, and they caught them off guard. Okay, but I'm with you also, and it's like, come on.
I think Motor City Machine Gun hit their finisher for the second pinfall.
They did,
Yeah.
which I turned to Jesse as soon as that happened. I said, "Well, they're not winning
There's their finish. Right
unless they're winning with a roll up. They're not winning because they hit their finish clean to end the fall."
Yeah.
So I don't feel like there was a lot of false finishes in that. There wasn't.
It brought down the audience just from what the women's rumble was. That was such a long match. I feel like that was sort of like everyone's like, hey, all right, let's go get our refreshments. Let's go get our food. Like, all right,
And they did.
and they did.
Yep.
And they came back.
may not have been one of them.
Oh, we were too. Don't worry. We were too.
And so, but I think the finish got everyone back up and got everyone recharged. But it filled its spot on the card.
Yep. Yeah, it was the only match you pointed out, only match that ended in pinfall tonight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't even really put that together, yeah.
You pointed that
Maybe
out.
that's
when
why it
happened.
was 2 out of 3 falls. Hey, we got to get
We
some
gotta get some pinfall.
we gotta
Look it
get
up.
some pinfall victories in on this card.
Well,
Oh,
I thought
my
for a
goodness.
second during the women's, Io was going for one when she rolled. I think she rolled up like
She
3-5
did.
or something.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, she hit the moonsault
Yeah,
too, and she
yeah,
like crawled over
yeah.
like she was going to pin. Yeah, for sure. All right, that's the 4 matches. We appreciate you guys being tuned in with us. Let's final takeaways. Jesse, it was all 3 of our first times at the Royal Rumble. So I'll start with you being the guest on the podcast. What are your takeaways?
It's always been a dream of mine to be at a Royal Rumble. It's a must get to event if you ever are a wrestling fan and you have the ability to go to one.
Yep.
Overall, I thought the 4 matches were incredible. You could nitpick certain things here and there. The
course.
amount of kip ups in the women's rumble.
Oh my, oh gosh.
If you had a counter for that, there was a lot. So, but overall, like I'm nitpicking. I thought
course.
they told stories. I thought they got multiple characters over.
I agree.
The finish with Jey Uso winning was just a shock to everyone, but
Buddy.
had that crowd electric. That entire match, I mean, they were able to make 4 matches go almost 4 hours,
Almost
and
5.
it didn't feel like it. And so that's the best part is that it's never felt like the show was dragging or anything like
Absolutely
that. So
not.
amazing to witness live, to be in there. And so thanks for having me on, and
Absolutely.
it's been an honor to talk a little bit of shop with you.
Absolutely. Andy, you have completed
I have.
the
Big
4.
Four.
The big 4 are now completed.
They are.
Survivor Series in 2019,
Yep.
WrestleMania in 2022,
SummerSlam 20.
SummerSlam 2022, and now Royal Rumble 2025.
Yeah.
What were your takeaways, man?
Going into the Rumble, it was my favorite event of the year. Walking away from the Rumble, it really is my favorite event of the year.
Of course.
It's unlike any other event out there. And it's so much fun. Even the bad years or even the bad Rumbles are still fun.
Yep.
And that's my favorite part. You still get great moments. You still get like the things that you want to see. But my biggest takeaway is, let's say you go back 10 years from now, or you go like 10 years from today, and you could tell somebody CM Punk, John Cena, Roman Reigns,
Seth Rollins,
Drew McIntyre were in this Royal Rumble.
AJ Styles.
AJ Styles, and Jey Uso is the one that won.
They didn't
And
win.
the place went crazy. I wouldn't have believed that even 5 years ago.
Yep.
I wouldn't have believed that. To say the statement Logan Paul eliminated CM Punk from a Rumble is just wild to me.
Yeah.
And I love every second of it. So tonight was awesome. Tonight kicked off the road to WrestleMania.
Yep.
This is when people get on board heading into WrestleMania. And
Yep.
this is when, at least the last couple of years, we've seen Triple H at his best.
Yep.
Is between Rumble to Mania. And so I'm expecting nothing left.
Buckle-
Nothing less.
Buckle up. It's gonna be a fun season for sure. That leads me to my point. Jesse, you mentioned like the pay-per-view didn't drag at all. You mentioned the star power and that Jey Uso is the one that came out looking like $1 million. I mean, everybody looked great, but Jey Uso being the star at the end of the night, WrestleMania main event, Jey Uso. My biggest takeaway is the fact that you mentioned a couple of years ago, but even let's say 2 years ago, 3 years ago. This groundswell for Jey Uso that has happened, if that would have happened a couple years ago, they wouldn't have run with it. Creative would not have allowed that to happen, to allow a tag team guy to rise up and win the Royal Rumble over John Cena. You didn't mention John Cena. Like Jey Uso eliminating John Cena to win the Rumble. That does not happen under the previous regime. So that tells me right there, if anybody, any wrestling fans, any internet wrestling community had any doubt that Vince McMahon is not a part of this company anymore, tonight proved it, because Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble
and got the shine from John Cena.
Yes.
So I think that sort of told you where John's mind's at on this farewell tour. It's not so much, hey, how do I get to that 17th world title? How many new guys can I really help push up to the next level before I go off into the sunset? So for him to come in and embrace Jey and just say, hey, this is your moment. You deserve this. You earned it. You're goddamn right he did.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Michael Cole said. That's exactly right. So it's not just Roman that made Jey Uso. Now it's John Cena. Yeah. And if you didn't think this company was getting behind Jey Uso before, I mean, like, he had an incredible year last year. And I mean, is a world title in his future? Pick it right now. What do you think?
If I'm picking right now, why not?
Why not?
Jey Uso wins at WrestleMania.
Yep. Why not?
That's the story you're telling. I mean, to be in that arena, and hopefully it translated on television.
I hope
to
so.
See the 65,000 people.
Did they ever announce attendance tonight?
I don't believe they did, but I'm guessing 65 to 70, somewhere
sure.
around that number. But when that whole arena's yeeting with him, and it was in the streets, like the last couple of days that we've been here. I mean, anytime you hear Jay's song, people were just going up and down, up and down, and
the whole time.
Getting behind him and pushing him all the way to the moon. He has that now story with Gunther, we all believe, but I think that makes all the sense in the world, because then you have the storyline with Sammy. We have another bloodline revisit. You have so many other options now to turn to with that. So I'm all for Jey getting that moment at WrestleMania with the win over Gunther.
And then SummerSlam, it comes full circle when you get Jey Uso as world champ versus Roman Reigns.
Oh, buddy. I mean, it writes itself.
It does.
It really does write
I
itself.
I don't need to watch anymore.
That's it.
Listen, if I've gotten like 2 of them right over the last year, so I don't go off what I said.
I got the men's Royal Rumble winner right. I'm just going to call it. I may have retracted my statement a couple times, but that was my
official pick.
That was no, it wasn't my official pick. It was my
dark horse.
It was my initial official pick before I had the luxury of changing it. All right. That's going to do it for Squared Circle Radio Live. We appreciate you guys being tuned in with us. Again, drop your comments, drop your questions, even drop those, even if you're not watching live, or we try to go back and answer all of those. Again, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and yeet right along with us. We appreciate you guys being tuned in. For Jesse Myers, for Andy York, my name is Chris Belcher. This has been Squared Circle Radio Royal Rumble post show. We'll catch you guys down the road.